diversify our local economy. In respect to having more choices at home, not having to go to Tullahoma, to Murfreesboro, or whatever. Maybe it's just me, but I do a lot of my shopping in Tullahoma and in Murfreesboro. Essentially, we become a town that has one grocery store, with the exception of Walmart, and I know that has a large market share. But a lot of the people I've talked to just in early campaigning, they watch the news and they see that with a weak U.S. dollar that some manufacturing is coming back to the United States, particularly auto, but also some textiles from Europe, where they're facing very tough economic times, even more so than we are in the United States. And it's giving hope that we can maintain a local economy that's based almost entirely on industrials. And I don't think that is sustainable at all. So I think it behooves the Board of Mayor and Alderman to take the leadership front. And then there's a number of ways you can do that, to see how can we bring, what can we do to entice a diversified class of businesses to consider Manchester.
Okay. We'll come back to that issue, so that's okay. Roxanne, let's give you a shout.
Well, I agree with what he said about the more choices. I too have to come to Tullahoma or go to Murfreesboro for most things that I need, or my children
We'd like for you
need.
to come to Tullahoma, probably.
We'd like to do it in Manchester. And hopefully we will have more choices and more retail places coming to Manchester, especially a grocery store, I hope. But right now I really don't know all the things that are going on, or that we really need to work on. I have to look into all that.
Okay. All right, Chris, you got the inside track, so you ought to have all the answers here.
Well, it certainly starts, I mean, it's going to be more difficult to grow, and that's what's been our boom the last 6, 7, 8 years, has been the growth that we've seen. But with the slowdown, the biggest burden that I see, it's a more repetitive, competitive economy. So what you have with Manchester in the mid-state area, combined city and county taxes, we have the highest. Tullahoma's right behind us. So it's going to be hard to recruit people in, because that's one of the things that they look at. So Manchester has a Retail and Economic Affairs Committee, and the Board of Mayor and Alderman needs to look at giving them some sort of funding, because the funding that they've received, they're fixing to run through. And we've seen progress out of the expos that they go to, and they showcase the town. They're the salespeople of Manchester, showing that we have 5 interstate exits, that we have 40 to 50,000 people come through our town every day. We need to look at giving them some sort of funding so that they can go to bigger and better retail conferences. Home Depot was a great example of one that came out of the Expo conference down in Atlanta. And we've outgrown the regional ones, the Northern Kentucky, your Family Dollar stores and your smaller chains are up there, and we've outgrown that. So the focus is on Atlanta, bigger and better, and they've got a great theme. They're the salespeople, and that's how we're going to be able to grow this town, is through using them as the salespeople of Manchester.
Well,
but also
who's that group belong to?
It's actually a branch of the Chamber of Commerce.
I saw.
So some people think it's a conflict of interest because the chamber protects its members, but it's also bringing new members into the community, and also keeping our valuable tax dollars at home. People talk to several people. I don't have to go to Lowe's anymore. I can just go to Home Depot. So that's really been a valuable asset, and the sales tax dollars that have been generated out there are really good for us too.
Okay. All right. So, any particular challenge we got? Well, we don't either. Let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and pick up where we're leaving off. We're back, folks, and we're talking with the candidates for Alderman for the city of Manchester. And we have Ms. Roxanne Patton, Joshua Moore, and Chris Robinson. I almost missed you. Chris, as you know, is the incumbent, and there's one seat that The candidate, the incumbent has elected not to run, so there's one open seat, and Chris is running for re-election. So, well, I understand that I've seen some numbers that says that Manchester grew by at least 15% last year, and maybe the year before, or certainly they were planning something similar this year. How do you guys feel about the growth? What's cooking with the city? Is this something you really want to do, and is it presenting you any problems at this point? Where do I want to start? Chris, I guess I'm with you.
I think any time that you have growth, it's good. Like I said earlier, it brings more people into the tax base, more people are sharing the burden, so that's a benefit. But traffic, I mean, from 3:30 to 5:30, if you're on 41 or 55, it can take you anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to get across town, depending on traffic. So the signs are there. We've had a lot of development. Signs of that are starting to slow. Single housing dwelling permits in February were 14, and then in March there was only 3. So I think you're starting to see there's still some new homes being built, but part of the real estate bubble that burst, we're starting to see that there's a lot of homes sitting on the market longer. So 15%, I think we grew probably between the last census and when we did our last special census. I think that's about what we saw. And I would say we're looking at the possibility of doing another special census to bring in more money from the state. And I would easily say that we're over 10,000. We finally, for the longest time, we've heard that 10,000 is the threshold, and I think that we finally, hit that. I think we're at 9442 officially. So, yeah. And I'm almost positive that we've had more than 600 people come in 2 years. So. Okay. But it does provide, the growth does provide problems. I mean, it's a drain on our infrastructure. We're currently looking at updating our wastewater treatment plant to handle that so that it doesn't put a drain on moving forward. So we're currently almost at capacity, and we're trying to stay ahead of the curve to get this built so that it doesn't slow growth.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We're talking about growth and whether that's good or bad and whether you're in favor of it. Roxanne? How about you?
I think the growth is great. I do think it's here. I can tell a difference just in the traffic, like you said, when you get off work, that it's a traffic jam for Manchester. But I don't have any numbers or anything like what Chris has. But where I am, I do get a lot of calls. I have people coming in needing maps of Manchester and general information. They get confused between the county and the city, and I deal with a lot of people that way. And like I said, there are a lot of calls. Okay. They go to the websites and...
So you're in favor of it?
Yes.
All right. Josh?
Well, I'm a big proponent of growth. I guess after spending several years in Washington, D.C. traffic, that I don't notice it as much as everybody else does, I guess. Yeah, the stop gaps here. And as Chris said, that 10,000 resident mark seems to be the general threshold for when you do have different economic entities starting to really take a look and focus on your area. Growth, of course, you do have strains on your infrastructure. It's just something that you're constantly going to have to evaluate and prepare for. On the credit side, I think, and I don't think we'll ever have to deal with what Rutherford County has dealt with. If we ever do, it's pretty distant in the future, I think. But I think
you could be wrong.
I could be wrong. I wouldn't mind being wrong.
Is that right?
I wouldn't mind being wrong.
You want to be as big as Murfreesboro?
Well, I think that in a lot of respects, we are better situated to handle an immediate influx. Like